Hi, everybody, eating your lunches and eating your snacks. It's another wonderful Friday. Yay. And we get to go to Oman. Ooh, how many have actually been to Oman? How many want to go? So we're going to go on a trip with Nailah right now. She talks about her wonderful experience. So let's welcome Nailah.
Hello, everyone. This is a great Friday. Today, we're going to be going to Oman, and we're going to be observing the geology, archaeology, and the culture of mainly Northeastern Oman. So let's start this off as to where we are at and where Oman is at. It's all the way over there. That plane ride was tiring. I've never slept so many times on a flight in my life. The flights were tough, but we got through it. The food was pretty good. So we had to take a quick stop in Turkey, but we then eventually got to Oman at some of us got there at 2 a.m. Others came still early in the morning, but the sun was at least up. So just to kind of orient yourselves, there's Saudi Arabia, there's Yemen, it's right next to Yemen. There's the Arabian Sea and the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Turkey is up there, it's just off the map. I couldn't fit it in there. But on the plane, let's go back some 70 million years ago. Let's go back in time real quick. This is what Oman used to look like around the Cretaceous. Now I want y'all to pay close attention to this Hawassa Basin right here and all of these seamounts, because this is going to be important in a second. And you see the African plate. Oman was part of the African plate. You know how we know it was originally part of Gondwana. We already know what the deal is with Gondwana. If people don't know, it loves to just come together and rift. We don't understand why. And the Eurasian plate is right here. So we're gonna zoom out a little bit I'm gonna use my fellow Chuck's figure and get a nice looking cross-section look at this. So there's the continental crust and the oceanic crust, and you know how it's subducting, how the normal process goes when it comes to plate tectonics. Because obviously the reason the ocean crust sinks is because it's made of basalt, and basalt is pretty heavy. So that's why it just kind of dips down. But the unique thing with Oman is, since this is in the Cretaceous and before the meteor took out the dinosaurs, we have all of this going on. So I'll explain real quick what happened. For some odd reason, I don't know, we might know, but I don't know, that oceanic crust and pieces of the mantle, for some odd reason, decided to just uplift onto the continental crust. All of that stuff just wham onto there. And remember that Hawassa Basin, that kind of got smushed. All those seamounts got smushed. And then there was, we got a metamorphic soul in between here. You can't see it, but it's there. And we're trying to find it. It's deep down there. We'll find it eventually. But that's a quick explanation of what Oman looks like today. And you're going to be seeing a lot of this stuff when I go through the slides. But here's a map of where we've been. We've arrived to Muscat, and the yellow stars would be the places that we've visited. So we've been to welcome Muscat. We've been to the Opera House. We got to see an opera. Apparently the Sultan Qaboos, may His Majesty rest in peace, really loved opera for some reason, and they built him a whole opera house. And we've also went to the National Museum, got a lot of the culture, learning a lot about it, got all this information taken in. Apparently the symbol on the flag is a dagger and two swords. I forgot what the swords were, but I know the dagger is called the Khanjar. I'm going to be messing up some of these names a lot, just so you know. And this was that picture at the far top right. That was our first day heading out. Not all of us made it yet. And the bottom left is just to give you some real world building on the mountains are right there. These people have built their civilization around these mountains, or cut out parts of the mountains so they can fit more space and get more buildings put in there. So it's a strenuous effort. So then we visited Mutra. It's a little down the ways from Muscat. Apparently the Portuguese has been here and kind of just left their forts behind. They got kicked out eventually, but the forts were still there. We got to visit one of them, one of the pretty large ones actually, and we got our first look at some ophiolite. That mountain, oh my goodness, where is the laser pointer? The mountain to the bottom left, use the mouse. Use the mouse, okay. The mountain to the bottom left right here, that's part of that ophiolite. So like I said, remember it got all the way pushed up, we get to see all this good stuff now, all exposed on the Earth's continental crust. And then the bottom right is us going into one of the biggest souks that they have. Souk means open market in Arabic. So I'm gonna probably be saying souk a lot. There are a lot of cats anywhere we went. I had to take so many pictures. I never felt so homesick in my life, seeing all these cats and like wanting to take literally all of them home with me. I'm just like, I'll sneak you, just get in the bag and we'll get on the plane and go home. And I'll be like, hi mom, I have another cat. What? So, but yeah, I had to take a picture of a lot of these guys. They just kept approaching us for food and things like that. And they were so adorable. I want to go back. So the next day we did a whole field day. We got to see all 3 rock types, which are, I'm gonna make the audience interact with me. So what are the 3 main rock types?
Igneous, metamorphic.
All right, they said sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic, which is correct. So our first stop, was phyllite. Phyllite is a metamorphic rock. It's very shiny. It's been through a lot. When we say metamorphic, we mean the minerals in the rock have changed and have been realigned in a certain way, a specific way, which is what we like to call foliation. And you can really see it in this phyllite. Look at how these layers are just so, like, look at how they're different. We could just bring the structure group out here, have them put the Brunton compasses and have a good old time with like how these layers are different. It's so ridiculous, but you can see how it's actively starting to erode. Here's a big piece right here that you can still see following the same orientation. And here's everybody in their field clothes looking like some true geologists out here. Oh, I love it. But that was our first stop looking at this phyllite. Pretty unique. It is, this was part of the whole situation where the abduction happened, because you're getting all this heat as this stuff is moving onto the crust. It's going to affect the rocks around it. I'm not saying this is not the metamorphic soul, but this was part of that situation, let's say. So it got turned into something else. What is the protolith? I do not know right now, but the original rock, it used to be something else. I can say that much. But then we went to Wadi Mayh, and oh my goodness, everyone on this trip could tell you my reaction to us coming to this stop. Absolutely beautiful sights of all these ridges and mountains, but you also get limestone and what's those white little veins? Calcite. Oh man, I have a bunch of samples I'll pass around in a second, but you can see this is from the Hawasana group. So like I remember that Hawasana basin I mentioned, that all got pushed. All this is like deep sediments that are now pushed and exposed for us to take a gander at. And probably as this all happening, you get little cracks in the rock, boop, cracks in the rock, and you get just all this water coming in and calcite just starting to precipitate and form in between those cracks, which you can clearly see. And some you could take. The minute I saw that calcite, I never ground so much in my life. I didn't care if I needed to get a certain weight of my suitcase. I just needed to have them. So I'm gonna pass around some of the samples that I found. I'm gonna start over here. There's 4 different types. I'll go to the different rooms and give y'all a look at this beautiful mineral we like to call calcite. And move on to the next stop in Wadi Mayh, which we got to see Buddhas in Oman. And maybe this country couldn't get in. So we have this dark layer of limestone sitting right here, and this another layer of dolomite or dolostone sitting right on top of it. And there's doubly. You can see how like the deformation process was going on, and see really the mechanics of like deformation at work. You see how the layers will be kind of extended this way and kind of stretched out this way. And you can see, as I drew out here, I drawn out what the Boudin actually kind of looks like. So it means sausage in French because they look like sausage links. And you can see that with the little whoop woo whoop woo. That's how you see it. It looks like sausage links. That's such a bad sound effect, but you get the point. And then this thing right here, this is, I believe this is more limestone, and you can see all the white of the calcite veins in there. This is a great recumbent fold. So I could. Here's the lines to just really point out what's really going on here. So how did it get like this? I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try. So we had layers that were originally like this, right? Imagine it's a straight line. Now, let's go a little bit in time. The layers start to go up a little. And then now, the layers all of a sudden start to just fold over each other. And that's how you get this orientation. Again, this is part of the Havasana, so it kind of makes sense that this kind of deformation was happening to where it's just the folds go up and then folded right over themselves to make them like pretty much like parallel to each other. So then we went to Chuck's favorite village in the entire country, Kontab, where we got to see a good look at the ophiolite, which I will explain eventually. Don't worry, we'll get to that. You can see how there's a road that is through here, and they cut the road right in between like these mountains, in between these rocks. And because of how these rocks are oriented, it makes it kind of easy for them to obviously slip and collapse. This was very recent, by the way. Chuck had been to Oman like twice within the year, and he said, I did not really see this before. So it was very recent. And oh, look at that. There's Dom all the way in the back with these layers of beautiful deposits of conglomerate. What is he really pointing at? Well, let's take a closer look. Here is Chloe standing by what looks to be a fault. So we could probably suppose that like this fault happened, that some earthquake of some kind could have happened and kind of disoriented the rocks and made them like kind of slip a little bit. You can see that deformation going on all up in here. You don't really see like, you can see that high strain all in between here. It's amazing that you could see that just in that entire layer. It does go up. I believe it does go up, but this is where it's really prominent and where we can really see it. So Kontab, it's a beach village by the beach. So we went to the beach afterwards. Very nice experience. We got to take a look at some more sand. We saw some sandstone, like some conglomerate. We got to see more limestone and then that ophiolite. There was a road cut before you get into the village where you could really see the obvious layering and the changes in layering, where you have that that conglomerate, and then the sandstone that is above it. It's like a reddish brown color, and that dark green stuff is that ophiolite sitting right there. So you can suppose that like this stuff got probably deposited after the abduction happened, and that's why you have all this gobbledygook sitting right on top of the ophiolite layer. And you can also kind of see them here, see how they're weathering away and things like that, and see the orientation of the layers. There's Abby holding a piece of cement sea star. It was just there. We just picked it up and I took a picture. And there's this nice little cave right here. I don't think it's natural. I think somebody like made it a cave, but it probably could be natural. But this is more of that ophiolite stuff over here. And they kind of cut a cave into it. I got a picture of it, but I didn't put it in here. I mean, of me in the cave anyway. So now we're gonna start moving to Ibri. This is where we went on our traverse up to Ibri, because as you can see with this line, it takes a pretty long time to get all the way there. So might as well have a couple of stops and enjoy ourselves. So we went to Halban, where we got to meet with some geologists from the Sultan Qaboos University. They were mapping the area out. I think in Havan, they're mapping out the geology of the area and what's going on. And as you can see, we got some interesting stuff going on. So we found within the ophiolite, it's made up of like this green rock called peridotite. That's normally a rock you get from the mantle because again, the minerals form at these specific temperatures that give us the big crystals and the nice green color. And again, that stuff, like I said, got pushed up. And in that, whilst these rocks got kind of metamorphosed, we got serpentine in them. And serpentine has a specific formation called chrysotile. Chrysotile gives you asbestos. And as we all know, that's not good for you. But this is really tiny. Obviously, it's not gonna hurt a fly. I don't think so anyway. But we have found some asbestos. One of the geologists showed me. You can see I'm astutely learning right here with one of the rock hammers they let me borrow. And we found some listwanite. Let's say with me, listwanite. There we go. So I'll introduce you up to a quick thing that I wanted to research in Oman. I wanted to learn about the whole process of carbon sequestration, or these rocks taking in the carbon from the atmosphere and forming them into these veins of carbonates. And the listwanite contains carbon minerals like calcite, I think. It has magnesite in there. You can see that white vein right there in the rock, it's prominent. So the listwanite, I would like to say that it is a completed process of this carbon sequestration. It took in all of that carbon, all of these veins are in there, and the rock sort of changed completely. Because we believe the original rock could have been that ophiolite, because peridotite in there is like a battery. It has that potential to take in all this stuff. So when the carbonate's in there, it's like, let's go. We happy, we in here. And listwanite is that complete process. And there is a study right now going on to see how we can use that to get all that excess carbon in our atmosphere. So the listwanite really can be helping us out in our future, especially with global warming. So I was really happy to see it. And I have some samples here that I will pass around. I have two. So I'm gonna start from the front and I'll go all the way to the back. So everyone in the middle. We changed up how I'm handing it out. If you steal a piece of calcite, you won't hear from me. All right. Oh, and then I wanted to point this out. What is Chuck pointing at? So the bigger picture, you see these folded layers of chert. Chert is a sedimentary rock. It is mostly made up of these little planktons called like radiolarians. And they're mostly, I believe they're mostly composed of like silicon. Yes, SiO2, or like the silica whole dealio. It's like also what's made up of quartz. And they all kind of were, this is from the deep ocean. These radiolarians, their bodies can only be preserved in like deep parts of the ocean. So obviously, when you see there are radiolarians in these layers, you're thinking, oh, this stuff is from the deep ocean. Again, going back to all this deep stuff, pushed up, folded, deformed, absolutely amazing. And you can see the fold geometry at this outcrop, insanity. I wouldn't even be able to try to figure out what's going on there. Maybe draw a strain ellipse or something. We'll figure something out. There was this nice little lizard who's hanging out on the folds, on the layers. He's upside down, by the way. This is him, and then this is the rock. He's just hanging up there. It's like, if I don't move, they won't know I'm there. So here we got to another stop in the area, and we got to see pillow basalt. So now I'm going to talk about the ophiolite a little bit more. So ophiolite is normally talking about a sequence of these different rock types. So at the top, you have mostly basalt, which is why there's pillow lavas and a sheeted dike complex, because you just have these dikes going straight up. It's just lava going up, and then it cools, and then another dike goes up, and then it cools, and it just is a repeat of that process. Sometimes that lava will make it out and sprout out and form a pillow. And we like to call them pillows. I don't know why. But when you go deeper, you get to gabbro. Sometimes that gabbro can come out and layer itself out, and just can be sometimes massive in this area. And this is the moho, like the real layer between the oceanic crust, and like the mantle. Peridotite is mostly what the mantle is composed of. Like I said, really green looking, nice rock, beautiful piece that I have, and which I will hand out in a second. But it's at the way bottom, 7 kilometers deep. We can't even reach that far yet in drilling. That's how deep this stuff really is. And so so this is really pretty much the top of this complex. So we can see these different changes in layers of basically the oceanic crust and to the mantle. There is a mountain in Oman, I don't think we've been there, where you can see the moho layer. You can see that layer of that peridotite, and then the gabbro sitting right on top of it. You can see that layer very finely. I wish we could go there, or Chuck needs to take me back so I can see it. But I had a question for all of you. Which way is up? I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. You got a point. So give me your answers. Let me see them hands. Where you think which way is up? Y'all saying this way? Chuck is pointing up. Okay. So yeah, okay. I see some lefts and I see some rights. So this way is up. That way is up. I'm sorry. I'm definitely on the computer. It's literally switched. But that way is up. The reason why it's up is it's a facing indicator you pay attention to. You see where there's a little curve right here in the pillow? Like I said, it comes out, sprouts out, and cools right on top. So you always want to look for that nice little dip in that pillow, because that lets you know, well, how in the world is it going to be coming out and it's just perfectly round like this and it just sinks? That makes no sense. So that's why we have this as a nice facing indicator to this way being up. So that lets us know these things kind of got overturned, let's say, because normally it's supposed to be horizontal. It's not in this case. But I'm thank y'all for playing the hand game with me a little bit. So then after all that geology, was hot, we was tired. So we decided to take it to the Nakhal hot springs. And I want to leave y'all with a couple of questions. This is a hot springs. The water wasn't that hot. It was warm enough to not really scald you, but it was warm enough to also have it life, which are these gar roofer fish. If you don't know, these are the fish that eat the dead skin off your feet. So, we got ourselves a little bit of a pedicure while we were there. It was kind of funny. They were it's like little, like someone brushing, the vibrator toothbrush? That's what they feel like going across your feet. It's just, it was so funny. It tickles, but you get used to it after a while. And so many fish were around my feet. And it was like, Nailah, you have so many. I'm like, I'm comfortable. But yeah, there was these gar roofer fish. But here's the geologist question we need to ask. Where in the heck is this water coming from? And what is warming this water? So Linda, if you don't mind getting the lights, I'm gonna try my best to draw this out real fast. So you have a big mountain, right? And let's just do that. That trees up here. And then you got a big cloud and it rains, right? The ground has to obviously be permeable enough to take in this water. So it takes in the water. No, all this over here. Oh, actually, this is perfect. Never mind. Hold on. This is perfect. Okay, so the water comes down and goes pretty deep, deep as in it's starting to get warmer. So that water is getting heated up as it travels down. And since it's heating up, you're obviously adding that kind of pressure. It's all high pressure down here. Now, let's think of these lines, if you can see it. These lines is faults. So I'll just write faults. Fault or little cracks in the ground. That water that is now heated up notices that there is an area where we can escape because it's lower pressure. So let's go right on up here, and then boom, you end up in this nice little reservoir of water. You got people here, people in the water. The big fish. The feet of the fish. Oh yeah, and the little fish. But that water comes down, all the way down, it comes up. Still warm, by the way. It hasn't had time to cool off. So it comes up And you got you got yourself a hot spring. So that's how we believe this water is like coming down and then heated up. And since Oman's got a lot of mountains, and these mountains have a lot of deformation in them, which means there's water that can percolate through and give us groundwater, this could probably be possible, we could scientifically say. So next we went to the Goober Bowl. This was I felt like in the Lion King, just standing up there, or the Titanic. I felt so alive. It was all windy and breezy. I was just like, I was hot too. I was sweating. So I'm like, I need all this wind right now. I am so hot. It's not that hot. Trust me. It's just, you got to do a lot of climbing and hiking and walking. It'll take you out. But this is by Wadi Mayh, which is this little area right here. Wadis are basically just like areas where, like, obviously where water travels through, or like a river or something like that. And you see, look at these mountains, like the clouds going over it. Ridiculous. It's so beautiful. And you can see behind me, these layers, I think it is limestone. I didn't even look to see what rock types these were, but you can see that deformation. You can see the weathering already starting to happen, how you see these little talus or like blocky blocks of just the rock. I'm no blocky blocks of these rocks that are just breaking off because of the weathering. And that's why you see all this. This is all part of the mountain. It's just coming off now because of all the rain and weathering and erosion. But you can see me standing behind this absolute beautiful mountain range in this Google bowl. It's a bowl because it pretty much is, you can look on a map or on Google Earth and you'll see that literal bowl shape. It's all mountains surrounding it, and just that area, low elevation right in the middle. What you'd like to see there is this stuff. What in the world is this stuff? Well, let me tell you right now, these probably are some of the oldest rocks in Oman. Probably. I mean, there is the basement, but I don't think you can see the basement. And Chuck had us guess what the heck this rock type was, knowing good and well we were not going to get the name. And, he told us it was diamictite. I am not going to spell it because I can't remember how to spell it, but it is called diamictite. It's a lot of these. So in this diamictite, you see us sitting on it, you'll see these big random clasts within the rock. Like, oh, could this be a dropstone? Dropstones normally come from glaciers, which carry these big pieces of like cobbles, boulders. Like, they carry such big pieces of rock, and just when they melt, just drop them off right there. And you can kind of see how these grains are like kind of stretched out a little bit, elongated a little bit. We could do a strain ellipse if we really wanted to. But like, people suppose or suspect that the only way you can really get this kind of stuff is from like a glacier. And since these rocks are pretty old from the dates they got, this kind of connects in with the theory of the snowball Earth. Billions of years ago, people suppose that the Earth used to just be, for some reason, just got cold. Went straight up cold, everything froze over, glaciers abound, and rocks getting collected up in this stuff. And eventually it warmed up again, you know, Earth evened itself out, warmed up again, and dropped all this stuff off. But of course, we have the naysayers who don't really think that happened. I'm gonna just put my foot in the ring and say, well, okay, if you don't think it was a daggone snowball Earth, what else are you going to get these big clasts within just this simplistic rock? What else could possibly happen? Somebody tell me later. And right above it, this is what we like to call an unconformity, because these are pretty young, like, sediments of like riverine deposits. It's just surface sediments just sitting here of all these rounded cobbles. If you've taken Earth surface processes, you know why it's like big, small little cobbles. It was obviously enough energy in the rivers that pass through here to just move these big rocks all over each other and just be sitting here like this. But these are pretty young. We won't, maybe like some 1,000 years old, or maybe million, if I wanted to shoot there. And these rocks, like I said, are some of the oldest rocks, go back to like I said, billions of years. This is what we call an unconformity, where you have this rock of this certain age and a rock that sits on top of it that is way younger than the rock that is below it. So it's very odd. I call it an unconformity. If I'm wrong, you know, I'll probably get told off later for it. So next, so we made it to Ibri, and we got to do ourselves a little bit of geology, but really focus on the archaeology in the area and what they're researching right now. So here in Ibri, we got to visit Ibri Castle. In the top left, it's like a big fort area, very nice. Our man, myth, and the legend himself, Sultan, like showed us around and showed us how all this stuff kind of works here and what used to happen in this castle. There was a lot of government decisions that were made here, and people from different governments in the area would meet up together and wonder, all right, how are we going to fix the problems with our country? What are we going to be doing here? And this was a big meeting place for them. You can see Jude all the way at the top of this castle. He's a little far away from us. He's still in the fort, but they have these ladders in the corners of the room that you can climb up. He climbed this one all the way up, and he got met with a bunch of pigeons that were sitting up there. They didn't get angry at him. They just kind of flew off. So, but we also got to go to a goat auction. Very interesting. Don't worry, like it was a bit hard to see all these goats being here, but through our trip in Oman, we just saw goats free roaming everywhere, walking across the streets on like these impossible like cliff faces on the mountains, just sitting there like they should be mountain goats themselves. But we got to see how these goat auctions work. They kind of walk around carrying a goat, and people give their person who's holding the goat their prices, and they'll just kind of keep walking around until like they sell it. And apparently fertile female goats are pretty expensive. Male goats, I don't think they're that expensive. Kids, they're a little expensive, but like you want a goat that can produce, they gonna jack the price up. And we went to this store that was nearby the goat auction to buy ourselves a couple of things. I bought some frankincense because when I told my family I was going to Oman, they're like, can you buy me this, this, and this? And I'm just like, well, I got a whole list. It would be like Santa Claus today in Oman, just start buying some. They're like, give me some frankincense, give me myrrh. Could you give me silver? I don't know why my aunt asked me to get her silver. I don't know how in the world she wanted me to get silver, but I got her something else. But I want to touch on the camel meat experience. Chuck, Abby, and Dom, they took us all to a Yemeni restaurant where they had fresh camel meat. Sadly, the vegetarians or like vegans couldn't get a taste of this. They had like salad. They kept giving them salad. I feel so bad for the vegetarians and vegans. It's like, here, you know, this will work. Give them salad. I'm like, they can't live off no daggone salad. But the camel meat, I gotta say, was pretty good. When you don't think about yourself eating a camel, it's real good. It's like fatty beef, really. And they put it with some rice that they probably cooked the camel meat in. And we got some salad as well. It was, and some salsa. Oh my, I never felt so blessed in my life eating that. It was so good. It was so good. I had to take a picture of the sign because it's just photoshopped camel standing by a sand dune. It was so funny. So we had some places to stop so we can get food for lunch. And one of the places we stopped at was Lulu Hypermarket. It's like a Walmart, a Costco, a Sam's, and IKEA, all mixed up into one. Yeah, I know, it's pretty big. But it shows really how developed Oman is as a country when they have like all these big hypermarkets. There's a mall in Muscat where you can literally ski in. I'm not kidding. They're that developed. I'm not saying that it's unreal, but it's just amazing to just see how Oman's got their foot in the game with just this development. I got to buy some tea for my mom because she wanted to try their tea. I'm just like, okay, Hamza told me, get this tea. This is the good stuff right here. Get it, your mom will love it. I'm like, all right, I'll take your word for it. But you can see these odd prices. So they obviously don't pay in American dollars. They pay in reals. And how they price it is a bit, reals are like I can't remember. Does anyone know how much a real is compared to a US dollar? 2.3 US dollars. 1 real is 2.3 US dollars. So if you get a 20 real bill, you rich, pretty much.
Okay.
Because of how much they charge. And they have 3 decimal points, unlike us where we use 2, or like, excuse me, they have 4 and we use 3. But they have like 4 decimal points. It would throw me off sometimes looking at the menu and seeing how much something costs. If we saw some meal that costs like 10 reals, we're like, we can't get that. We can't get that. That's too expensive. But yeah, I just wanted to, again, world building, show y'all what this hypermarket looked like. It was so fun. I got my favorite drink and everything. We got chips Oman in there. They had some Lay's chips. They had like some cupcakes with Looney Tunes in there. But so we went to the Yonko, which is one of the rocky sites. This is dated to be around the Iron or Bronze Age. To the late Iron Age, to the Islamic period. These is how old this area is. This area was covered mostly in slag. Slag is like pretty much leftover crap you get from copper smelting. And since we have the ophiolite helps provide also copper with all that heat, pressure, and stuff going on, get you some nice copper. So these people pretty much established old copper mines and mined it a lot. They built their houses out of their stuff. Literally the whole area is just covered in slag. There was slag heap, slag piles. Abby had us do like a bird's eye sketch and a sketch of some of these foundations of these houses, which is like right here. Now the period is like 1200 to like 600 BCE, I believe. So this is pretty old. And this is Elena, I think I said her name right. She is holding a piece of like this old ceramic that was, I think, used for like baking or something. I cannot remember, but you can see that the art is still on there. Like even through all these processes, you can see that little art that they still put on the bowl. And right here, you see these round like stones. Obviously they were placed there, but this is an old ancient graveyard. Now, I do believe there are bodies buried here. I was so scared I was accidentally stepping on them without even noticing it. Thankfully I didn't. But yeah, even back then they put like line these graves with like stones and have sometimes something marking it. But this was a nice experience. Oh, and here's Ahmed. He's a dung beetle. There were a lot of dung beetles there. He just so happened while I was sketching to crawl up on my leg. And I was like, you know what? You're gonna be Ahmed. You're gonna be Ahmed. I had eventually got him off because I had to leave. I'm like, sorry, Ahmed, but it was real. So next we went to the marble quarry in Al Arid, and well, it was an experience, I'll say that much. We got to get right in the back of a truck all the way up to where they were quarrying this stuff out. This quarry is huge. So marble is a market name. Marble is actually limestone, but it's just really white because of all these made up of these dead organisms, dead shells, dead everything that just gives it this white color that Oman uses a lot of, especially in the hotel we stayed at in Every. They used a lot of like marble lining everything. It was just white when you walked in the hotel. Here's London standing by a big dimension stone. They cut it in these specific dimensions so they can use it. They're pretty expensive. There's also crushed quarries where they crush the marble. It's way cheaper than these dimension stones. But in the midst of this stone, we have this thing called a stylite. And if I have it here in my field notes, which I took so many of, I'm gonna find it. You know how it is. There's you can see these weird little, you can't see it, but I'll pass it around or something. It's these weird little like things all up in the rock, and that's what it's called, stylite. And what did Nailah write in what stylite is after Chuck so nicely sketched it in my field notes? After he sketched it, it's like all these it is basically wiggly planes composed of clay minerals and iron oxides and things like that, all just in there. It can truncate really fossils and rocks, and it's dissolution residue in like a carbonate rock. So that's what you see up there. You can't see it because it's white, but here's where they were quarrying the marble, and you can see this kind of contact right here. but you can see them like with the big saw that's right here. They use to cut into the marble, and they'll cut it all four sides and then eventually like get a machine to pull the block out. Some of the blocks that don't look good, they just placed on a whole other mountain on the other side. You could just see this mountain lined up with these white dimension stones. But I drew out that this contact, like I said, of this, I believe it's still limestone, but it's just now like kind of, you see the bedding planes kind of folded in such an orientation, but you can see real close look at where they cut at in the marble quarry. I tell you, it was like a fun experience to be here. I actually got Chuck to do the satellite picture and he signed it. I had to get it autographed. But on our trip to the quarry, our bus got met with a problem. The back bumper fell off. You can see Chuck and Sultan holding the bumper, and they decided to just put it on the bus and get us the whole way there. And we just changed vehicles. And here's all of us like laughing at this entire experience. It was so funny. But we had to move into a smaller bus, but we got to Butt and we got to see the Umanar tribe's tombs. So the Umanar tribe, they're right now, the archaeologists are doing excavations and they are pulling out some of these towers that were lined up and also these tombs, which you can see is made up of marble. Wonder where they got that from. Also, this is another tomb that they like kind of excavated, but also recreated. And these are mostly lined up with limestone blocks. You can see in the blocks, there's evidence of like cross bedding in some of those blocks, which is actually very nice. And also you can see layers of dolomite in there as well. But these tombs were absolutely beautiful to look at. You can see how on the mountains, on the top of the mountains, the Hafid tribes would also build these tombs or these towers. You could just see them wherever you go. Just a place where just archaeology, just old ancient stuff is just hanging on the mountains is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I'm not used to seeing it out in the open. I'm used to seeing it in a museum. But we also got to help them make clay, because they use the clay for like community, for the community in Bot, and they have them like, it's like a community effort making like pots, ceramics and things like that. And we just helped them make the clay. We had some people go dig it out, and the rest of us just put our hands in mud and played around until it was real fine. It was disgustingly fun, I'll say that much. So then we went to Al Ain, one of the most famous spots in Oman. You could just look up Oman and these beehive tombs would show up. These were also made by the Hafid, like about during the Bronze Age. So this is pretty old. And in some of these tombs, there's more, not just this site, there are more sites around Oman that have these tombs, but they actually did find bodies like still preserved in some of these tombs and got to take them out. And we got to really get a good look at them. It was so beautiful and such a nice area of reflection on how humanity really started itself out in these, especially in the mountains, and made it work pretty much. And here's me and Abby standing by one of these really nice dry laid out tombs. But again, this was also made by the Hafid. This is really old. You can see the rocks here, kind of how you can see the folding kind of happened a little bit in there. But on our way to Nizwa, we went to the Bala fort. There's Chuck. I tell you, when we were at this fort, it's like a maze. I swear Chuck has the power to teleport, because every 5 seconds, me, Maddie, Jordan, and Chloe just saw him. We were talking about him for like 5 seconds. He's like, "You guys talking about me?" We're like, "Oh, scared the life out of us." Like, "Where did you come from?" He's like, "I don't know, man. I'm scared." But here's me and Maddie at the top of the fort, and we were looking at this very nice view. It's like everywhere we went, you could always see mountains in the distance. I swear to you, it was such a view. I'm so glad I got this picture of Chuck just walking. He just walks so fast everywhere. And here's Bibiana in London in another room. We were in the upper part, and I was like, "Yo, guys, hold still. Let me get a picture of y'all." And so I got a picture of them. So now we went to Nizwa. And in Nizwa, oh man, it was soup abound here. Like one of the biggest soups ever. I know I said that Mutra has a big soup, but this has a big soup. And we got to like really start purchasing things and stuff like that. And I was able to get this. the field guide. I was really looking for where the field guide was. I was like, I got to get a geology book before I leave. If I don't, my life is a lie. I have to buy one. And ironically enough, I'll just tell the story real quick. I had left my wallet in Muscat, which had all of my money, my cards, and everything. If they did Apple Pay, I made it work off of Apple Pay, but like had nothing. And Chuck lent me some money so that way I could like buy stuff. And we were this is where we could really haggle. Like I've never haggled in my life, and we just kind of haggle the prices. Apparently walking out of the shop is really effective at getting a discount on the price.
Oh yeah.
So we haggled, and Jude was talking to one of the store owners who had this field guide, and he misinterpreted it as, could we buy this book for just $2 And he's like, no, I'm gonna put this back. And we were just like, what did he say? And Jude kept talking with him, and he's like, Nailah, are you able to pay 13 reals? I'm like, here's my money, just take it. Here, just give me the book so I can go. And I got the book. Here's more pictures of us in this one. There's Chloe and Abby once again. These is the rooms that we had to stay in. It was pretty unique, I gotta say, especially with the doors. I loved it, even though we got to stay for one night. The food and the breakfast was good. So, and this was us getting dinner when we arrived in this wall. You can see how they eat. They mostly eat on the floor and on top of a rug and have the plates sprawled out. There was a lot of hummus and bread to go around, and the hummus fans were going crazy. So then we went to Berkat Al Mus, where we got to see how the flage system really works, or how they deal with water. So a lot of the source of this is from groundwater. Like I give the example, it's not hot this time, but from where groundwater is stored. And they basically just kind of used that to their advantage and built around it to where they split off these channels to go to certain areas for domestic or like for agricultural use. That's where this water transports itself to, like for the water for your house, to flush the toilets with. They're very efficient with like preserving power and preserving water. They make the use out of it here. And I just wanted to really show that off because it was very unique how just you get to see how it really works in real time. So we go to now the Sharkia sand dunes. Absolutely beautiful. Our camp was right here. As you can see, we didn't go pretty far, but it's far. So we went to the Sama Al Wasil desert camp, and we got camels. We got to ride camels that morning and climb to the top of this very huge sand dune. This is the camp right here. I mean, it was a climb. I don't know why people wanted to take, like there was a rope on the hill and you just had to climb all the way up while your feet is just slipping and sliding in the sand. It was ridiculous, but the view was nice and it was worth it. Also, someone got bit by a camel. Don't worry, they were fine. It wasn't like that bad. It wasn't like vicious, but it was just the nom on it. It just nommed him like, ah. Probably because he thought his arm was food. Camel's probably hungry. But then we went to, this is Jude, once again, buried in the sand. Hamza just kind of buried him and he just sat there. Everybody was in it with the sand, rolling down the hills, had sleds, slid down the hills. Everybody just loved it. Why have snow when you have this? Sand never goes away. Snow does. But just to give you a buildup of this is where we ate at the camp. This was like the center place, the commons area, I guess we could say, where we all like pretty much sat around, talked about what we were going to do. We just had a day of relaxation where we just didn't have to do much at all. It was so nice out of all of the field work that we've been doing. I was so tired. And there's me not looking at the camera on the camel because I was fighting for my life on that camel. I never felt so nervous to ride him in my life because I knew what he could do to me. Huh? No, it's just camels. You know what camels can do?
Okay, good.
They can be vicious, no questions asked. But all right, where are we going next? We're gonna go to Ras Al Jins, where we got to see turtles. We got to see sea turtles. So Oman is a very nice place where they get a lot of different types of sea turtles. They get leatherbacks. Leatherbacks do not lay or nest their eggs here, but they are around. This was a baby sea turtle we saw in the morning. They are alive. Don't worry. They're just tired. And we got to see a female green sea turtle lay her eggs, and then we got to see her cover them up. I didn't think I was going to see this in Oman at all. I knew they had turtles, but I didn't think we got to see it. But yeah, they have the Ripley's, what is it? The Ripley's turtle? I can't remember the names, but I know they have the green sea turtles mainly do come to this beach. And Oman is like the third country that has the most efficient like turtle reserves. Like they are really serious about like caring about the turtles and things like that. So again, amazing how Oman it just has its foot in the game. And then we went to the beach and we got to see some tafoni. Real quick about tafoni, let's say you got a crack in a rock, right? You get salt water going in there. Salt water, so salt is a mineral, it's an evaporite. So when the water is gone, the salt just starts to grow back and it expands and pushes out whatever used to be in there, kind of like mini potholes, basically. But this is mostly from salt expansion, though. So that's what these little circles are. And you can see this bedding of like dirty limestone and just regular limestone with these layers of shells and things like that all up in there. And we got to see the easternmost point of the Arabian Peninsula. This is the point where the Arabian culture ends and you start to go to like India and things like that. And over here, it's just the other side of the beach. Nice looking view. Mountains are even sitting right over here. What rock type are they? Probably ophiolite. I don't know. But for my guess, it might be ophiolite. So next, we got to go to the mother of all outcrops. You look up Oman, you'll get a picture of this outcrop. Or if you type in the mother of all outcrops, you will get that picture. I'm serious, not my specific picture, but you will always see this outcrop. This is chert folded and bended in so many different ways. I wouldn't want to be a structural geologist and figure this out. So, but this is just chert, all folded every which way. And in my field book, they actually draw out what's going on. Even I wouldn't be able to follow that, but you can see a fault here. You can see all these folding happening. And this is more of that radiolarian chert. And yeah, you can see me at the top of the outcrop. I wanted to be on top of that thing. But then we went to Sur. We got to visit a boat factory. It's a factory where they still practice the old practices of making boats. And we got to see them pretty much like building up boats. We got to buy a lot of like some wood crafted products. It was very beautiful. We got to get a nice look at the beach. We did go to the beach eventually, but then we went to Wadi Shab, absolute greatest wadi to walk through. It was like a 45-minute walk to get to the like water and back. And we got to swim in the wadi. And this is a nice waterfall. This is a nice little graffiti that someone painted to welcome us there. But you can see more layers of that Hawasana of these sedimentary rocks, just kind of just all layered and sitting there. And you get a nice view throughout the whole entire walk. And you get blue water, I mean, see through. The rocks there were slippery though, because of all that algae and organisms growing on them. You couldn't stand on a rock for more than 2 seconds without slipping. Somebody dropped their phone in the water too, and they had to stuff it in rice. But it was all fun, but sadly the trip's got to come to an end, and back to Muscat we went. And we got to go to the I see the names leaving me. The Royal Oman people, please help me. It's the Grand Mosque. I'm sorry, words left me. We got to go to the Grand Mosque. I fell. I tripped in one of the fountains they had in the ground, and I fell and took the meanest like carpet burn from slipping and falling because I couldn't see where the bridge was at in the fountains they have installed in the ground, and I just tripped and took the biggest fall of my life in front of so many people. It was ridiculous. I'm just the Grand Mosque too? Like really? One of the biggest mosques in the country? You can see the nice chandelier, and this is I forgot the name of this wall, but it's a wall they always make in mosques where it faces the direction of where Mecca is. And this is a wall. You can see writings of the Quran all over this. The design's absolutely intricate and absolutely, and just a beautiful thing. They have even areas, like they have a library. I'm serious. They have a library and places where you can just reside and get dates and things like that. I'm going to say this right now. I am sadly not the biggest date fan. I didn't want to say that while I was there because I feel like it was a crime against man. But to finish it all off, we went to get some rocks for people's research, like Aaron's research. We collected some liswite. This is more liswite. And then on the drive back, while listening to a Nico Case song in Truck's car, we got to see the rest of the views of Lutra. And I found me a nice looking snail fossil. Never thought I'd even find a fossil in Oman. And I'll give you my main takeaway, but I'm not going to give it with what's on the slide because honestly, why should I? I'm going to give what I wrote on the last day in Oman that night. So I said, this is the last day here in Oman, and I'm trying to enjoy every last bit of it. I hope one day I can come back and go to places I haven't been to and see and collect more rocks. If I could help contribute to the geological research of the Omani rocks, it'd be so nice. Coming to Oman was such a treasure. It felt so exclusive and amazing. I'm so glad I came to such a beautiful country. Who knew someplace that I never knew would have such a wealth of culture, archaeology, and geology. This place was absolutely beautiful. This is a picture of me with Sultan, my guy, the man, the myth, Sultan. He was the one who really made this trip possible. He was able to get us a new car when our bus broke down from that situation, and was able to make a lot of this trip work for us, show us around his hometown, and he even took us to his farm, because a lot of people in Oman have farms and things like that. And he took us to his family's farm, gave us dates and strawberries. It's absolutely beautiful. And I can't thank Sultan enough. I told everyone, I need to get a picture with Sultan immediately. If I do not, I'm not leaving the country until I do. But the next trip will be in 2 years, in January 2025. If you want to go, this program is run by obviously the Women Married Geology Department. You want to go, talk to Chuck. It's through the Reeves Center's Global Education Office, and it's like around a 2-week study abroad trip, and it has a pre-trip class. So I'm going to acknowledge Sultan and Abdullah. Abdullah's right here. He was our bus driver. We invited him to the Sharqiya sand dunes with us. He originally was not going to go, and we all were like, he has to go. And he's like, all right, I'll go. And he went with us for the trip. And the Nora Majan Arabic Institute, that's what Sultan basically is the head of. And of course, Dr. Bailey Buffington and Saruzi, all the fellow classmates who were on the trip, the James H. Critchfield Scholarship for making it possible for me to even go, the Reeves Centers, Turkish Airlines, as mishmash as it is, I gotta thank them at least. And to the families and friends who supported me while I was on the trip. And well, there's my references. Read Chuck Bailey's blogs. And that is my presentation.